funny story. I was in Florida for their combine before the draft, and I was in the dry stall, like where you get all your outside clothes on, you put into your gitch or whatever. And I was just getting changed and with a couple other guys, and then some guy walks in, he's go, "What's up, fellas?" And as I look around, and it's Jumbo Joe Thornton with his big gray beard.
Subscribe to Unmastered.
Unmastered is on the rise, up to 1 million soon. Subscribe to Unmastered Podcast. It's the best podcast in the fucking world.
This is the Unmastered Podcast.
All right, guys, we're back on Unmastered Podcast. It's been a minute, but we're here. You guys see the set. It's customized for our guests today, you know, hockey themed. We got the nice little pictures in the back there, merch on the table. But let's just introduce our guest for today. So for today's episode of the Unmastered Podcast, our guest is an NHL prospect. He's been playing hockey ever since he was a little kid, and with all his hard work, he's played for teams like Cornell University in the NCAA Division I hockey, and in 2022, the USHL North York Rangers. He was the Rookie of the Year. With his great talents and unique play style, last year he achieved his dream of going to the NHL and was drafted 83rd overall to the Dallas Stars. We're looking forward to hearing more about his journey. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome George Fegaras.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we're excited for this pod. As you guys know, we started a little hockey segment on Unmastered, so that's how we met George. You guys probably saw the video. He was in it. He versed us. He fucking sniped on Nagy. But we were like, yeah, man, we got to reach out to this guy, see if he'd be down to do a pod, and, you know, we're here. So,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, welcome. So, yeah, just take it back to, like, you know, when you're a kid, obviously, you know, growing up, you're always playing sports. Kind of was hockey just like a thing you just started with, or you kind of like picked up with it? And when did you like sort of start taking it a bit more seriously, like noticing, okay, wait, like I can have a career in this. I'm pretty good, whatever.
Yeah, for sure. I think I started skating when I was about 2 years old, mostly just skating. My dad put up the rink in the backyard, and you know, started playing on a team when I was about 4, probably like a lot of normal guys start when they're younger. And then, just played through Richmond Hill system my whole life pretty much. And then once I was about the year before hitting minor midget area, I realized I was like, okay, like I can kind of make this my thing. I got some good size when I was younger, and then I slimmed down a bit, and I realized, you know what, they can make it happen. And ever since then, it was just, you know, just more milestones, more goals to achieve, and then on to the next one every year after year. So that's it.
There you go. Yeah. So you started like in Richmond Hill, obviously, the Stars or the Coyotes, AAA, right?
Yeah. I was first year novice. I played AA, and then I played for Richmond Hill, their AAA program, for 7 years. I'm on into my OHL draft year, and then obviously moved on to North York, and then in the USHL after that. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's okay. Did you have like a kind of a drive for it? It was just like a thing because like you were saying, you're just younger, so you're just playing sports in general. But I guess hockey just clicked. And did you have like a favorite sort of team or player growing up that you like kind of looked up to, or like you know, helped you like kind of replicate your game off of? Or
Yeah, I've always been a Leafs fan since day one. And when I was younger, I always liked Morgan Riley. Like I like to emulate my game after him. I think he's a really good two-way puck-moving defenseman, so I kind of like look after his play and try to model my game after him. And yeah, I've been a Leaf fan forever. My parents, my brothers, and just, you know, bleed blue, right? So that's it, forever.
there you go.
For sure. So how did you know, like, you know, you were in AAA. There's a lot of kids who are playing AAA, right? Like, how did you know that you're like, okay, like I actually might make it to the show? Like there's a real, like, legitimate chance here, like, you know?
You know what? I never thought of it, actually. Like, even in my North York, when I played with my draft year, I didn't even think of the NHL. I just kind of wanted to get a school commitment, get a D1 offer. But yeah, once I got my offer for school, I was like, you know what? Like, what's the next step? What's the next goal? And obviously it was the NHL, and my play kind of, you know, elevated that year, and I realized that it was attainable to get drafted. So I think my size definitely helped me, even going back into AAA, my speed as well. So I think those two factors definitely had me above other kids. So yeah, those two for sure.
Yeah, and you played in Cornell, right? So you say it? Or?
Yeah. So next year I'm going to go to University of Cornell. This past year I played in the United States Hockey League. So it's like comparable to the OHL, but in the States. But it doesn't ruin your eligibility for college. So I played there this past year, and then moving on to Cornell in the fall. So yeah, it should be fun.
Nice. Yeah. So you've had experience playing obviously in the States. Is there sort of a difference in like systems or like just, or how was that, like that opportunity getting to play across the border, being from Canada and getting to play in the States? Was it, you felt was better to be playing there, or like just in general, like how was that experience?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a great experience. Guys are great. The opportunity was awesome. Like, it's a little different than here. Everyone there is doing the same route as I'm doing. Every kid's coming to big schools like Michigan University, Ohio State. The only thing a little different is you're moving away from home. Like I had to stay in a billet family, which is like prepared by the team, and they get paid, and it's just a random family I live with. And that was a little different being away from home because I've always lived with my parents and my brothers. So that was definitely an adjustment, but it was a great year, to mature a little bit, get ready for college. So yeah.
Yeah. What year do you think you kind of met like a certain figure, like either, or like a parent in general, could be like someone you really looked up to kind of like help drive yourself to keep working hard every day, or like a certain coach or something that kind of, really stuck with you, like their message they gave you or whatever, like anyone in general?
Yeah, I think it'd definitely be my North York Rangers coach, Jeff Schmogi. I know Alex can attest this a little bit, but he's very tough coach. He doesn't take a lot of BS, but being a younger guy, 16-year-old, going into that league with a lot of older kids, he definitely was great with my development, really patient, let me make a lot of mistakes, but he was really tough on me. And I think without him, I don't know if I would have had the same opportunities I do now. So I was really happy for him. He was definitely someone that contributed for sure.
Yeah, it's great. And like, obviously your parents have been a big role also as well, right? Helping fund all this from the start, and, taking the time to, drive you to games or tournaments or whatever, taking time off work, maybe sometimes. So yeah, like they've also probably played a big role in your career for sure.
100%, 100%. They, without them, I couldn't be where I am now. I'm sure it's the same for you guys. They do everything for us, countless hours, money spent, tournaments, all the travel, so 100 thanks yous to my parents for sure.
I was interested in how you were saying you went to the States, right?
Yeah.
And so how did it feel like in terms of like the way they play? Because I know Julien kind of mentioned it a little bit, like half of a question, but like what was the difference of play? Like, do they play like, in Europe they play more like east to west or whatever?
Yeah.
And like, what's the difference there? Is it more physical? Is it like less physical, or like compared to Canadian hockey?
Yeah, I think the physicality is similar. But I think the playing style, like you're saying, in Europe's a little different. I feel like playing in Canada, it's a little bit more, flowy hockey. The OHL is a little bit more fast paced. The USHL, it's in the States, is a little bit more system based. A lot of dump in retrievals, a lot of face off plays and all that. I think it was in North York, I had a little bit more success, like rushing the puck, creating more offense. Last year, I was not necessarily doing that as much, maybe making a first pass rather than rushing it all the time, which was, good for rounding out my game, but definitely two different styles. And I'm sure going into school next year, it would be, helpful that I played in the USHL this year.
For sure. You got exposed to that like style of game, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting, like you play in different leagues and you get exposed to like those different styles, and hopefully like, all those styles kind of complement your game as you go to hopefully like pro hockey, like NHL, right?
100%. It's cool.
Yeah. What do you think the main difference is though? Like, from like double A to like a triple A team, or like, going on to D1 or playing in the OJHL, like what do you think are some of the more differences between all those leagues? Like obviously the skill level gets better, but you think it's more fast paced? Like what kind of things you think are like the big parts of it?
Yeah, I think the biggest one's physicality, like being, mature physically. Last year I was a little bit smaller. This year going to college, you're playing against men, right? Like a 19-year-old, kid going against 23-year-olds. So obviously there's a discrepancy amongst age groups. So you got to be, mature physically, make sure you're in the gym. But that's definitely the biggest thing. Speed, obviously there's a little bit of adjustment, but playing, you naturally gravitate towards the speed. But I think, physicality is being in the corners as a 04 against, a 2000, there's a big difference.
For sure, yeah. So how much do you credit the gym to your success? Like, are you there like all the time, or like what's your schedule look like?
Yeah, it's pretty much every day, except weekends. I work out with Alex a lot every day, and we push each other consistently. And without the gym, like gym's the most important. I've heard some coaches even say like, you don't even need to skate during the summer. You can just need to work out because like you're skating every day during the year, right? So summer is like the biggest, you know, opportunity for you to get ahead of other guys and, you know, move past them. So the gym's like a big credit for me, yeah.
Do you also have like some sort of diet or certain like food schedule thing you kind of follow, like certain amount of proteins?
Yeah, diet's
like,
got to be like somewhat important to this whole thing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the dieting's pretty big. Obviously, you can't be eating a lot of junk, and there's a balance for sure. Obviously, you can't, you know, be 100%, you know, all healthy foods, but yeah, there's definitely like caloric, you know, boundaries you want to hit. Make sure you're getting the right amount of protein and vegetables, and yeah, that's definitely important for athletes.
What about like pre-game rituals like you had before games or, you know, practices, whatever it may be, like any of them you have?
Yeah, you know what, like that's very complicated. I can give you the rundown if you want.
For sure, go for it.
Yeah, so you know what, I'll give you the one when I was in North York. It was a little different this year because we played 60 something games and we're on the road, but I'll do like an ice bath for every game. I know it's not the typical approach, but I'd like sit in it for about 15 minutes, take a cold shower, then I would get out and do some like, I'd have 2 lacrosse balls and just do like a couple hand-eye exercises, and then, you know, go to the rink, tee my stick. And I know I get chirped for it a lot. I do some like puck marks on my stick. I don't know if you noticed it in the game or whatever. I don't know if you can pull up a picture or something, but I do some puck marks, and I know I get some hate for that. And after that, we do warm-ups. I have to be like the first one off of warm-ups. Like I think it was a 3-minute mark.
That's crazy.
Okay? 3-minute mark. I got a nice sprint off the ice. Like I know some NHL guys do that too, but and then just the regular game for during O Canada or the United States anthem, I do like quick prayer in my head, just, you know, and some meditation just to get focused. But yeah, I know it's like sounds silly sometimes, but they're very important. Like gets my mindset in the right, you know, area. And you know, if I mess something up, I always think, oh, I'm not gonna have a good game or something. So I got to make sure I keen in on those, and yeah, they're very important for me. Superstitions.
Yeah, so you're a big believer in that, right?
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Do you have like a favorite pregame meal or something like you try to eat consistently to, like, you know, part of like a superstition, or just like anything you like to eat, I guess, before a game?
I guess it depends. Like last year or the year before, I would have like an egg white omelet or something. Like keep it consistent. We played at like 3:15, so pretty early in North York. So I would pretty much eat breakfast because we're going into the rink at like 12 anyways. But in Muskegon this year in the USHL, like we would be traveling like 5-hour bus trips and all that. So we would eat as a team. Like Chipotle would be one we would eat as together, or like pasta and chicken or something. You know, pretty much all the stereotypical pregame meals.
Yeah. What's like the farthest place you think you've traveled for like a game or like a tournament, or like I guess like your favorite place you visited to go play a game, or, you know, any cool arenas or anything like that? Yeah.
There's this one tournament I played in Philadelphia, the WSI Philadelphia tournament, when I was 15, and we played in the Flyers practice arena. That was pretty cool, but yeah, that was a lot of fun. We ended up winning that, and I played with like some big guys. Like Fantilli was on our team, and Rutger McGorty, who was a first rounder to Winnipeg, and Lane Hudson drafted to Montreal, was on Boston University, and a couple other guys. So it was a pretty fun tournament. That's definitely the most memorable traveling tournament for sure.
Well, you're mentioning some big names there. How is it when you play against those kind of guys? Like, do you elevate your game? Do you get like intimidated by it, or like is it something you enjoy, like just to play against those bigger names?
I definitely enjoy it, but yeah, you got to elevate your game. Those are special players, right? Guys that, you know, can change a game instantly. So it's definitely a mindset switch when you're playing guys like that, because they can make you look silly in an instant, right? So yeah, definitely mindset. You got to dial it in for those guys.
I know, like when I play basketball, I try to take like the best guy and try to like lock him down. Are you like saying to the coach, like, yo, put me on when Fantilli's out there? Is that like the kind of like communication with the coach, or you just go out whenever, or is there like any?
You know what, the coach puts you out there. He puts the right guys out there. Lucky enough, I've been the guy to shut down a lot of good guys, but yeah, I don't know if I can be the one to ask the coach to, you know, go out there, but yeah, it's definitely fun, like to lock up a really good player. You feel good about yourself, right?
Yeah. Who would you say is like the sort of best player you've ever played with or against? Like, it doesn't have to be like an actual like league game, but like you were saying, like you had like a little thing with Fantilli, whatever. Like, who would you say is like someone you've played with that's like it was a pretty cool experience?
Yeah, definitely those guys. Playing with them, it was unreal experience. Playing against this year, we played against that US NETP team. So like the guys like Will Smith, they go Burrow, the guys who went first round. So we played them quite a few times this year in my league, and yeah, I would have to line match every time those guys were on. So that was definitely tough. You know, they made me look silly a couple of times, but yeah, those guys were for sure. And there's another league Alex and I actually play on. It's called Curdo's League, and he's a great trainer here in Richmond Hill, and he does a league with a bunch of NHL guys. It's like a 3-on-3 league. So last week we were playing against like Jack McBain and Akil Thomas. Scored the World Juniors goal, and the Foodie brothers. So those guys are pretty good NHL players, and we had to try to shut them down as 0-4. So
That's sick.
that was definitely a good experience for sure.
Yeah. What's like one lesson you can take from your like whole journey so far, and like that really stuck with you, and you're like that you can like share to us here, like the people watching in general?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is patience. I took a different approach to my career, and I decided to go the school route, right? And I jeopardized my OHL draft a little bit, went a little later in the draft, because I told teams that I maybe wanted to take a year and see what I wanted to go to school, or if I wanted to commit to the OHL. And obviously it was tough seeing a bunch of my buddies go and sign their OHL contracts, get all the cool gear, play in front of a lot of fans. And that was obviously, test my patience a little bit, playing Tier 2 junior in North York. But you know what, at the end of the day, it was worth it because, I got a scholarship to a D1 program in Ivy League school. So at the end of the day, it worked out. But yeah, patience is patience is virtue, as they say, right? Because, without being patient, I wouldn't have, had my pathway, right? So,
right.
Yeah.
So would you say that education's like a priority of yours? Because like, you chose to go to an Ivy League school. What are you studying? Like what's your passion in terms of education?
Yeah, definitely love school, growing up. And I'm going to take economics next year at Cornell. So yeah, hopefully I won't be too bad and I can balance it a little bit with hockey. But yeah, you know what? Like all of us, even when you guys were younger and played, we always did school and then hockey after, right? So it's the same thing for college. So
yeah, that kind of leads us into like work-life balance in a way. And like, how do you find balance, practices every night of the week, working out, all these things? How do you find time for your buddies? Like you mentioned your buddies, like how do you, keep that social interaction, but then also make sure you're not like, getting lost in the sauce in a way and like, messing up your opportunities. How do you find that balance?
Yeah, it's definitely tough, managing everything, being, having a schedule is definitely helped me. The good thing with me is I work out with a bunch of my best buddies as well. Like my best friends are at the gym with me, so I can just spend time with them there. And but obviously you have to prioritize what's important, right? Hockey, training, and there's always time for friends. It's what you make of it, right? And typically like weekends, the time I have off is where I can spend time with friends or go out and play hockey with them. Like that's still quality time. So for sure, yeah.
Yeah. Especially like, I guess it's hard for athletes as well, like being in relationships as well. Like, I don't know if you're in a relationship, but like, I'm sure that would be difficult as well. But like you were saying, like a lot of your buddies, you probably play hockey with, so you're seeing them every day kind of thing anyway. So it kind of works with it in a way, but obviously like sometimes you don't want to always just see your buddies when you're like working. Like you want to have that off time where you're just chilling by a fire or something.
Like even like us, like we'll have times where it's like, we're chilling, but we're chilling with this kind of stuff. Like it's kind of the same thing, but also not, you got to have that time where it's like not hockey or not podcast or not like content creation. Right. So yeah, definitely that balance is for sure important. But you can tell that there is an element of sacrifice that's like involved, right? Like how much have you had to sacrifice to get where you're at? Because it doesn't just fall in your lap, right? Like how much is sacrifice important? Yeah,
quite a bit. Obviously like when you're younger, you're not going to like some parties that you would want to be going to. And, going to high school is where I see like the biggest, amount of sacrifice, because those people there, they're not always in line with your path. They're doing different things, and your buddies from school are doing different things. But, it's just staying, it's just a grind, honestly. Like you just got to keep your head forward, almost tunnel vision on what you want to achieve. And I think that's what I did through my high school years, and it made it a lot easier. Just, focus on that, that goal of mine, like going to school or the NHL draft, and it makes it a lot easier. But also I think you know, I credit a lot of my buddies as well, because I had really good, you know, like Alex, one of my great buddies, you know, we have the same kind of goals and mindset. So when you have friends like that, you know, you feed off each other and all in the same goal, right? So it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I think that's like the best thing, is having like a group of friends or even one or two guys, right, that you're really close with, and you both sort of have the same goals, right? Like that's us here. Every day we're together on FaceTime calls, or either just trying to hang out. Like we don't live too far from each other, right? So we're always like talking about this kind of stuff and what our passion is and what we want to do for a living in the future. So it's sort of just always what's on our mind. And like you Nick was saying, like it's kind of hard not to do that shit. Like when we're together, we're like, fuck, like we got to think of something else to do. Like who should we have on next, or what video should we film next? Like it's never just like, let's just chill and talk about life and, you know, have a beer or whatever, right? But speaking of like drinking and stuff like that, do you kind of like stay away from stuff like that, you know, trying to stay healthy? Is it better for like your performance wise, or like are you a big party guy, like you were saying in high school, like parties? Got
the
stuff?
Western shirt on. So
Yeah, that's my girlfriend's school, funny enough. Okay. But yeah, like I'm be honest, you can ask like Alex or some of my buddies, I'm not a big party guy. I don't know, it just wasn't ever my style. I've always was just, you know, committed to just, you know, working out and, you know, training. Obviously there's some balance. Like you could have a life as well, right? There's like a professional, you know, side of it as well. But I don't know, I recently got this band, it's called The Whoop. And, you know, if you were to drink, it tells you, like this tells you about your sleep recovery and like your strain and all that. And, you know, if you were to drink, it kind of jeopardizes all that, makes you, you know, the next day your recovery is not as good. And recovery is a big thing, especially for athletes, making sure you're, you know, dialed in the next day. So this tells me if I'm lacking for sure, so it keeps me accountable. But yeah, you always have to have a balance like we we're talking about before. But yeah, when I was younger, going up to, you know, my draft year and stuff, I was always stayed away from that. But
speaking of the draft year, you know, how did it feel, you know, after all those years of dedication, hard work, you know, to have that night where it's the draft night and you're waiting to call your name, and then if you get called, you know, you eventually get called. How did that feel? You know, emotions, you know, family around, how did that feel?
No, it was awesome. It was like, I think it was the best day of my life, and definitely want to, if I could, I would do it over again. And a lot of anticipation. I was really nervous. You know, I was in Montreal, so my family and I drove down with my girlfriend, my two brothers, and you know, so the first round was the first day, so obviously we didn't go that round or that day, and then the second day was 2 to 7. I was anticipating more like a late middle, like 4 to 5th round. I was anticipating, and you know, funny story. I told this to a lot of people, but I was telling my brother to like open up his iPhone or something, play some video games like Subway Surfer or something. So funny thing is, he opens up the phone to play Subway Surfer. We start playing, and the next call they called my name, and we just looked at each other like, no way. That's crazy, so it was like, that's a story I always have and can tell. Sure. And you know, it was a surreal day. It was a blur, and we did some media, some autographs, and it was so much fun, like with just being there with my family and going out to dinner after and having a good night. And but it's definitely a day I would do over if I could.
Yeah, definitely. To me, it seems like it's just a great story of like delayed gratification, where like, you know, you didn't indulge in all that like crazy party life. You sacrificed so much. And how many years have you been playing hockey? Like at least like 15 years by now? Yeah. It's 15 years in the making, really, to that one point. And like, that's just a testament to your discipline and your, you know, wanting to make it and having like a purpose, right?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
It must feel crazy. I could only imagine, right? It's like for us, like being like the #1 podcast or something like that, right? Where you're grinding, you're doing that like every single day. It's your, you know, bread and butter. Like you're just doing it, and finally it pays off, right? God, imagine it was insane.
Yeah, it was awesome. Words can't describe. Honestly, it was a sweet feeling.
Yeah, just like you explained that story gave me goosebumps. I was like, especially because like, you know, a lot of kids when they're younger, you know, they dream of something like that. You know, obviously, like a lot of kids play sports, and you know, obviously, one of my dreams was obviously to make the NHL, but it is what it is. Didn't work out, but no, yeah, for sure, it's awesome to see like that success you've had, and you know, after everything you kind of did, and you know, it kind of felt like it paid off at the end.
So you got drafted. What were the next steps after that? You know, did you have to file any paperwork? Did you just go straight to development camp? Did you start training? Like, what was the next step?
Yeah, it was a quick turnaround. Like after the draft, like all the media and stuff, we went right up to they had a press box, and right away it was like flight detail, you're leaving tomorrow. So we had to fly. We drove back next day from Montreal, and then I left right away. I think the day after, early morning, like at 5 a.m. or something. Yeah, it was a quick turnaround. Went right to Dallas. Met all the people there, and it was a week-long development camp similar to like this year, and yeah, it was awesome. Great experience. Worked out with them, did some on-ice sessions, worked on some skating. But yeah, it was awesome time there. Just the one thing is so hot. It was like 40 degrees.
Yeah.
40 degrees Celsius. It was unreal.
Jeez.
Like it's crazy heat there.
Some condensation in the rink.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad. No, one thing is you come in, it's freezing because they have to.
Oh, because they have to
They
like
have to keep it
overdo it.
cold,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Interesting.
awesome though.
Any players you met or like were at that camp that are like current, like any Jamie Benz or who else is that other guy from Toronto? Sagan, was he with like
Rupe
any
Hintz
like
or
yeah?
something?
Yeah, no,
That's what Nagy go.
yeah, that's funny. I saw that. Yeah, when I was there, I was with Wyatt Johnson. He played on the team this year, my past year. So he's a great guy, very humble. He put up 130 something points in the OHL, led the league in scoring, but you would never know from his demeanor. This year, Sagan was there. I talked to him a little bit. It was funny, and he was telling me about his wedding next week. He's getting married and his plans for summer. So yeah, it was nice meeting him. So yeah, they're great guys. Make all this money, but they come and see these young development kids, and they make an effort to talk to them. So that was really nice of them to do that. So yeah.
So you watch these guys like growing up, like Sagan, with the Bruins, like what, 2011 or whatever. Like, do you get like a little bit starstruck when you see these guys, or is it just like it's another hockey player?
No, it's still surreal, right?
Really,
Because
yeah.
you think about like 3-4 years down the behind, and these are the guys you watch on TV, right? Just to be where they are and use the same facility as them, it's kind of surreal feeling. And funny story, I was in Florida for their combine before the draft, and I was in the dry stall, like where you get all your outside clothes on, you put into your gitch or whatever, and I was just getting changed and with a couple other guys, and then some guy walks in, he's go, "What's up, fellas?" And as I look around, and it's Jumbo Joe Thornton with his big gray beard, and he's like just talking to us. I'm like, "What's going on?" He's just a guy who played so many years in the league and made so much money. He's like, "Oh yeah, boys, just here for training and still getting better. I'm going." I asked him about the Leafs because that's when he was on the Leafs, right? And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm going fishing with Auston Matthews or Nylander next week, and they're gonna come over to go to the Chino, get some, gambles a little bit." And I'm just like, "Oh, like what a beauty, eh? Like him making time for us." So yeah,
man.
that was a lot of fun.
You're looking like Jumbo Joe.
How's that beard in person?
Yeah, no, it's huge. It goes
Did
down.
you stroke it? That's funny.
No,
man.
it was awesome. Great feeling talking to him for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah.
For sure, that'd be a sick feeling, man. Yeah, like growing up, watching these guys, and like you're saying, like it's so subtle. You just turn around, it's fucking Joe Thornton.
Yeah.
Is there anyone you want to meet like badly in the NHL? Like just any guy you like? I guess Morgan Riley you looked up to, but like anyone that you like are like, I need to meet this guy.
I think Matthews, like obviously being a big Leaf fan.
Yeah.
He's just such a great player. Changes games instantly with his talent, and definitely a forward I looked up to, and his character, and yeah, I definitely want to meet him. And talk to him a little bit, pick his brain for sure. So yeah.
So you were at development camp. How was that whole thing? I guess you mentioned like, you did some drills. Did like the intensity go up like a fair margin, or was it like similar to what you're used to?
Yeah, it definitely goes up because it's, again, when you're there in that setting, you're competing for a contract, right? You're trying to prove to the GM that you're better than this defenseman. It's like a Trout pretty much, even though it's development camp. But yeah, it's definitely high intensity, a lot of body checks, and but it's also a great time to meet all your future teammates potentially, right, and make some good relationships. So that was definitely something I took away.
Let's say everything goes to plan. You get you're playing in the NHL. Who are some guys like you're sort of excited to play with, or excited to play against in general? Like
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's a good question. Obviously, hopefully, I'm with Dallas still, but yeah, like Jamie Benn, Hintz, and Heiskanen, also a big guy. Look up to a big defenseman on Dallas, and if I could play with him, or again, hopefully with him, but yeah, he would be a great guy to be matched with or against. I don't know. It'll be tough, obviously, like we talked about earlier, with those really, playing against those good guys, but if Sidney Crosby, that, you know,
Yeah,
obviously a
crazy,
great
yeah.
guy I looked up to when I was really young. If I could play against him, that would be a dream come true, right?
For sure, yeah.
Definitely him or some Toronto boys, yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of Toronto, we said, are you able to talk about Toronto? Because, you know,
Oh,
it's a
yeah.
little bit of a conflict of interest in a way. But so what are your thoughts on Toronto, the way they're building their team? Do you, like, I've heard from other NHL players that I've come across that, you know, they think I would never play for the Leafs. What are your thoughts on them? Like, would you ever dream of playing for them at some point in your career? Of course, you want to stay with Dallas as long as possible, but like if it ended up happening and you were a free agent, would you be interested in that?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I obviously grew up here.
Yeah.
It's my, you know, my team. And, you know, even though I'm drafted at Dallas, I think I still always could be a Leaf fan, right? Until I'm actually playing in Dallas. But yeah, I definitely want to cheer for them. And I think they're making some good moves right now with the, you know, bringing in some grit, new GM and everything. And, but yeah, I'm, you know, excited to see what they do in the future. You know, I've been let down. I'm sure we all have been in the past few years, but you know what, there's a plan, and maybe it wasn't this year, maybe it's the next year, or maybe 10, 15 years down the road, but you never know. We're going to get one eventually, right?
Something I've noticed is when guys from Toronto play against the Leafs, they always turn it up. So do you think if you ever got played against them, matched up against the Leafs, would you turn it up another level just to like show off? Like, or would you just be like, I still like these guys, I want them to win? Like,
No.
how's that go?
No, definitely not I won't be a fan of them if I play
Yeah,
against them, right? I guarantee you, if we play against Toronto, all my buddies will be there, family members, you know, cousins. So I think that kind of elevates your game a little bit, having all that family there. But yeah, definitely not going to be a Leaf fan if I play them in the future. So
Yeah.
Cool, man.
And, you know, the free agency just passed. They got, you know, I was about to say Ty, don't we? Max told me.
Yeah.
Who else they got? Fucking
Bertuzzi.
Klingberg, all these
Klingberg.
guys.
I was a little bit sour about that Shen leaving. I was like, fuck, you know, he was good in the playoffs, the experience, and just he had the body. That's what the Leafs are missing. But, you know, they brought in Reeves now, so we'll see how much play time that guy gets too. You know, he's always, you know, because they still have Simmons too as well, right?
Yeah, I think so.
But, like,
I'm not sure.
I don't know who they'd pick over that there, but
Speaking of the veterans, do you have any like veteran mentorships, like any guys like who played in the NHL or like are currently in it that, you know, mentor you or like give you a couple tips here and there that like you're avidly like in communication with?
Yeah. One of our coaches, his name's Mike Vernace. He played in the NHL. Him and his brother run a great program. It's called Shift E. They do a lot of skates, but yeah, he's a great coach. Going into the draft, he knew I was a little nervous and, you know, skeptical about the whole thing. And he just kind of, you know, I could go on the phone with him. He would kind of make me relax a little bit and ease me out a little bit. And, you know, he knows his stuff. He played for quite a few teams and played in pro in Europe as well. But he's definitely a mentor I look up to because he's been there, right? So
Right.
I definitely can lean on him a little bit.
yeah, for sure. It's always great to have someone like that, like you're saying, like that's been there too, right?
Yeah,
Like it's not like you're just friend giving you advice. It's like, okay, but like how much more do you know than me, right? Like, so it's always good to have a guy who's experienced, who's played in the NHL at a pro level and knows how those nerves and stuff can feel. So that's good.
Yeah, like speaking of the nerves, you know, when you're at those development camps, when you're at those big games, you know, it's a final or whatever, like how do you elevate your game? How do you play the way you want to play? You know, do the nerves affect you or like do you use it to your advantage or how's that whole thing work?
Yeah, definitely before the nerves get to me a little bit. But once I step on the ice, I think I'm smooth sailing. Like, I don't know, that's kind of been my nature forever. Just kind of when I get on the ice, it's like a safe space almost, right? And even in those big moments, you kind of have to stay neutral almost, not get too high, not to get too low, and you can live in the moment. So when I'm in those tough situations, just kind of have to stay level-minded, right? So that's what helps me a lot.
Seems like you're a very humble guy.
Yeah.
So like you got to imagine that at some point in your career, you know, there's going to be those fans, like especially like we talked about Toronto, guys like Justin Hull who make a turnover, get their whole life ruined on social media. Are you anticipating that at all? Like, of course, like we don't imagine you having a bad career or anything, but let's say you have a slew of bad plays. How do you kind of deal with that? Have you ever dealt with hate, criticism, whether it be like fans, other teams, you know, people in the comments, like how do you, you know, manage those kind of comments and you know, attitudes towards you?
Yeah, it's definitely tough. Like it kind of gets to you, but you know, one thing I've always learned, and a lot of pro guys do it as well, you just kind of have to treat it as white noise, right? Just in one ear out the other. Like, you know, whenever you have success, someone's always going to try to bring you down, right? So you kind of just have to, you know, let it go by you.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm obviously anticipating I'm not gonna have a perfect, ride.
Of course.
Obviously there's gonna be some negative criticism, and you just gotta kind of let it go by you and just keep trekking away, right?
Yeah.
So
It's a difficult job for sure. Like those guys, they get destroyed, especially in markets like Toronto. We were saying like Dallas is a little bit of a, I guess, smaller market, but I've heard it's very like popular hockey in Dallas. Like, have you found that? Like, is that like the number one sport there? Of course, they got like football, but like, is it on the rise? Like, what's the vibe?
Yeah, it definitely is on the rise. They have the Cowboys. I think that's number one market there. But I think hockey's a close second. I know even for us when we were in Dallas, like even the development guys, like when we were there, we went to a couple outings. Like we got noticed, take some pictures and autographs with the fans, which was nice as well. But yeah, it's a pretty big market there. It's like a sneaky market because you never know, right? You don't really hear too much about it. It's not as publicized as Toronto, but it's definitely like pretty big there.
It's almost like Nashville. Like you wouldn't expect it to be like such a hockey market, but it is. Like it's a big hockey market
100%.
too.
Yeah, they're a pretty successful team this year too. No, would they go like the second round or Dallas?
Dallas has been good. They're a sneaky, like underrated team that is like always up there. Like they went to the finals 2 years ago against Tampa, right? Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Robertson really stepped up. Is it Jason or
Jason?
Yeah, because his brother was for the Leafs or whatever. But no, he's a very skillful guy too and young.
Do you have any siblings? Speaking of Robertson.
Yeah, I have two younger brothers. One name's Alex and Nico. The middle guy, plays AAA midget for Toronto Titans. He's 2007. He's 15. And then I have a younger brother who's supposed to be the best out of all of us. He plays in Markham Waxers, and he's 12 years old now. Sorry. Yeah, he's special. If we can get him on the podcast in a few years.
Sure,
but yeah, you can even ask Alex. He's a pretty good kid. He's pretty good. Alex is really good too. He got drafted at Guelph Storm, and he's going to their got invited to their main camp. But the younger guy, Nico, he's pretty special. That kid. He's got some talent. He's got some talent for sure.
Exciting stuff, man.
It's dope. And I guess having a brother like you knows someone to look up to, how important you think that is as well, being the older brother, being on your way to success and like being a good role model for them too. Yeah. Like you sort of try to portray a certain role to, help them out a bit too. And they can look up to someone like you for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I'm with them every day. It was a little tough being away from them this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're both great kids. They got good heads on them. And I just try to be the best version of myself for them and, try to be a great role model, like you said. And, but they got their foot in the right door as well. And then just got to keep trekking away.
You guys must have some sort of like competitive rivalry that's crazy for sure.
Oh yeah. I'm looking at Alex as he knows. Like my dad actually had to put like hockey boards in our basement because we kept tearing out the walls and there's holes and there's holes everywhere. But we play mini sticks down there and I don't know if you know those Zorro sticks, like those little tiny ones. So we go down there and we just battling for hours. And Alex gets in on the mix too. We do some 2-on-2 action. And we're just. Oh, my parents upstairs, like, what are these guys doing down there?
It's like an elite mini stick league.
Like we gotta make some TikTok or something.
Shit.
No, it's fun. We have the backyard rink as well, and we're out there all the time. Just
do you think that like helped you like get to where you are? Like I know all the kids when we were younger, I played like single A. Every kid who had a backyard rink was always the best player on the team. Do you feel like that like had some sort of factor into like taking you to the next level?
You know what? I think so. 100%, because I think the biggest thing was during COVID when we had no ice, right? Like my dad put out the rink and I was skating every day while some kids haven't skated for 3 months, right? Like, I know it was small or whatever, but yeah, I think that year definitely took me to the next level. Like coming back my NHL draft year season after the COVID year, it definitely helped me because I was skating every day and, working out in the basement and, ever since I was a little kid, I've been just playing in the backyard rink all winter time, like every day, like consistently. And funny thing is, my younger brother didn't ever do skating lessons. He was always he just learned to skate on the backyard rink and just instantly grabbed the stick. So and he's the best one I think out of all of us now. So thanks to my dad a little bit for that. But yeah, it's so much fun as well. Like when you're younger, it doesn't even seem like you're training. You're just having fun out there.
For sure.
But yeah.
Yeah, you get those reps in, right? I think that's like a big thing. It's like, especially hockey, it's not like, you know, basketball or baseball. Like you can't just go to the field or go to the court. You know, a lot of times like kids can just get good at basketball because they can just go to their school, shoot hoops. You know, with hockey, there's like a barrier to entry a lot of the times. And like I find that, you know, having that access to the ice, you get to like hone your game, like your craft, and get mastered. So you're not unmastered, right? But yeah, no, for sure. That seems to be definitely like a big thing for a lot of guys, is like having that access to ice and just training because you get to know like what to do, but more importantly, what not to do, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, there's definitely some things you can weed out of your game at all times. So what would you say is like the factor that motivates you to keep like whittling away at your game, like keep like honing your craft, you know?
Yeah, I think there's a combination of things. I think what I was saying before about the goals, like always having a next, you know, goal to achieve, a goal to like strive for. And I think my parents, like family as well, like obviously they're pushing you to, you know, you want to do it for them, all the sacrifices and countless hours they put in. So it's a combination of both those two things, because at the end of the day, it's for yourself, but like you want to also, you know, do something for your parents as well, your family, your brothers and friends, and, you know, prove all the haters wrong, right?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Yeah.
Like speaking of goals, what are your sort of future goals, like either NHL goals, like, or just, you know, next year playing with Cornell, whatever, like some goals you have for the future?
Yeah. The biggest one right now is kind of just doing well in the college level, you know, making my mark on it, standing out a little bit. And then after that would be hopefully signing a contract after how many years it takes. And, but yeah, there's always going to be a next one. Just worry about one at a time, and, you know, whenever that comes, it comes. I don't want to rush anything. Just make sure I dial it on my goal whenever it comes. Yeah.
How do you think your younger self would look up to right now? Like, you know, you grinding it on your backyard, like you're saying, you know, long hours, working out, you know, going through it, man, pushing yourself through all that hard work, you know, just you looking at your younger self or putting the perspective of your younger self, seeing you now, you know, being drafted. And how do you think, you know, you would feel, or what would you tell your younger self?
Yeah, that's a good one. I probably wouldn't believe it if I was younger right now, like 10 years old looking at me now. I probably wouldn't believe it. Like, funny thing is, I asked my dad, like at the draft or after, I was like, did you ever think putting me in as a young kid into skating, like this would ever be the turnout? And he's like, no, like I just want you to have a good hobby, like something I never could have done when I was younger, right? So, but yeah, looking at my younger self now, like all the work like kind of paid off. Obviously I'm not nowhere yet. I still have a lot to, you know, achieve, but it's a great stepping stone. I just got to keep, you know, having that tunnel vision, the focus, and, you know, keep getting goal after goal. Yeah.
How does it sort of feel too in general to be like sort of close to, you know, living that dream you've always wanted? Like, how does that feel like for you?
Yeah, it's unreal. Like your foot, you know, they say in Dallas, like your foot's in the door now, but like it's just in the door. Everyone at this level is in the door. You got to make a statement, you know, make a name for yourself. There's a lot of work to, you know, obviously come. And, but yeah, it's awesome, you know, knowing I've achieved what I wanted, you know, dreamed as a little kid. And, but yeah, it's part of the process. There's a lot more to do now. So
how do you guys think the NHL is like sort of growing? You think it's going in a good direction, or, you know, like we were saying before, there's a lot of boundaries when playing hockey. You know, not everyone has access to ice. You know, it's an expensive game to play, all that kind of stuff, right? So I don't know what was the viewer this year for the NHL? It was like the lowest it's ever been in like the last 5 years or something, right? So, you know, obviously it sucks to hear that, because, you know, it's a game that we all love to watch and, you know, play when we were younger. So, but how do you think the NHL is going? Like, you guys think it's becoming more of a widespread game? Like, I guess they're introducing new hubs now, like Las Vegas. Some people say it was rigged that, you know, they won. So like, you know, kind of, you know, introduces another hub and they get a lot bigger fan base there because they have a championship. But do you think it's going in a good direction, or it's growing at least?
Well, I think we're in like a transition, right, with the NHL. Like there's a lot of those older guys, like you mentioned, Joe Thornton, like Marlowe, like that era is sort of fading away. And like, you know, you got your era coming in, right? And there's a lot more skill, right? And before it was a lot more like rough and tough fighters and all of that, right? So what's your opinion on the whole thing, just the way the game is changing in the NHL?
I 100% agree with you. It's definitely transitioned more skill-based, not a lot of fighting. And I think we got to keep that in the game, though. You know, it's important. I know this year, my first year with kind of fighting, like it could turn a game around instantly. Like we were losing one game, 3-4-1 or something. My buddy got in a fight. All the boys were, or the captain got in a fight. The boys went wild. Next shift we scored, and then we just kept going. Like it's just an energy transitioner, right? Like I think if you get rid of that in the game, then there's no more like, you know, energy. It's just, that's the good part about the game, right? But I think it's, the hockey is with all like the influencers, getting those TikTok guys like yourself and like Nagy out there, like that's really good for the game as well. Like it, you know, the younger guys really love that, and it kind of brings more of a, you know, fan base to hockey as well. So I think that's a good way.
Yeah, I think those guys like Zach Bell, you know, like Always Hockey or Pavel Barber, like those guys have been making, Coach Jeremy Rupke, another one. And those guys have been doing videos for years now, but I think it's starting to get noticed a bit more. Like I saw, like then they're getting invited out to the All-Star game. A few of them, you know, Coach Chip, he was at the draft this year making videos. So I think that's honestly like the best thing for it, right? Is these new influencer people who, you know, have them out to these things, make videos, and it grows the game, right? These guys 100%. Have huge fan bases. Why not use it? And I think, I don't know if it's more of a thing how the NHL works, but like even the players in general, like doing more social media stuff. I don't know how
like what
how
you're
that,
doing right now,
how
right?
that-
Like coming on the show, like that's I think like what needs to happen more, because if you look at like leagues like the NBA, you know, like all these guys, like they're characters, you know, like you know how like Paul George or DeMar DeRozan or LeBron, you know how those guys behave. I think with the NHL, especially with like the helmet over your head, you don't really get to know these guys as much. Like, exactly. I think what you're doing now is good. I think the next generation of hockey players, like probably you'll see more of this kind of thing. It just like bridges that gap between like the player and the fan. It's like, you know, if you don't know how these guys like behave, how they talk, what their views on things are, it's a little bit harder to like connect to them. But these NBA guys are like always out there, like they've been doing this kind of stuff. So especially now, like with the podcast, like, you know, they have their own podcast, like Draymond Green, right? Like, how do you think the NHL's players are gonna evolve with the growing like social media landscape? Like, do you believe in it? Do you think it'll grow like more? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Like, you're kind of tunneled into, you know, the game of hockey. Like that's always what you're doing, and you're wearing the helmet, right? You're not as out there as guys like basketball players or baseball guys, right? And the character's not as exposed, right? And I think it's good to get out there, you know, get your character out there. Like I let people know who you actually are, and like doing stuff like this, you get to see a little bit of who I am, and I can same vice versa, right? And you know, I think that's really good, and I think a lot of guys should take that approach as well. Yeah,
like you get to, you know, hear more about your backstory, you know, your personality, and in a way, like that'll help players grow their own personal brands as well.
For sure,
because now an audience could connect them. They're not just a guy like, oh, Connor McDavid, he just plays hockey. Like if Connor, like, you know, Connor McDavid did that thing where like he showed his house tour, like, okay, like I see like he's a person, he's getting married, like he's not, it's kind of a disconnect when you're just watching him on TV, like you're saying, with a helmet, you don't really see them. They're like a small speck. It's like, okay, the guy plays hockey, what else, right? And a lot of them, like McDavid in general, like he's not really into that whole media thing. Like a lot of them are just like that, right? They don't want to talk, but like you're saying, it's tunnel vision. You're there to play the game. Exactly, you want to be the best at it. You don't want all these other distractions, right? Especially when media is like asking stupid questions and it's like stuff. It's like, come on, like I'm just, you know, but you know, I think it can be important for some players for sure. Like look at Conor McGregor, the biggest media-wise UFC fighter, and that guy had one of the biggest personalities. You know, like he was out there during those press conferences. So you know, it can definitely help build yourself.
It could be good, but you got to imagine there's negatives to it too, right?
Sure.
Like if you come on this podcast and you're saying like all this crazy stuff, that's got to affect your like stock in a way, right? Like, because as a player, you are somewhat like an asset to a business. So if that like asset is like acting all weird, it's like not as valuable, right? Exactly, so it's a difficult thing. Like I gotta imagine like putting myself in your shoes, like you gotta be careful with what you say. You can't just be like spewing nonsense, right? People are gonna think like, what's wrong with this guy? Like, do we really want to sign this guy? But I think, you know, the way you portray yourself, like clearly like you're a good guy, but it's just like, you know, we gotta find ways where we can, you know, bridge that gap, like we said. Like people gotta know who people are. But hey, you guys are making millions. You can do whatever you want. I personally would like to see it more. You know, you see it a lot in the other leagues, like we were saying. But yeah, it'd be cool.
You know, back to like the whole fighting and like the sports and the hitting. I think the reason why the NHL and like hockey is trying to do that in general is because they're trying to grow their game. So you look at like, for example, I'll bring up UFC again, right? Like they don't have many sponsors. Their sponsors are like alcohol. They're like Howler Head, like these things that like are fine with like being tied towards UFC and like that whole fighting brand. So hockey now is starting to become a little more popular, getting a lot more eyes. So I think they're trying to get rid of that sort of violent side of it, just so that like they can start collaborating with more brands, and more brands would want to sort of be a part of like the NHL in that way. I don't know if you guys see that too, but I feel like that's like a thing.
It's very like, seems to be very corporate, or like very like just professional and stay in your lane, which is good, because I think it allows for more of an audience, right? Like you got kids watching, like a ton of the audience is probably just young kids, and you don't want it to just be like, try this drink. And even with that whole gambling thing, like it was a big problem at one point where they didn't want to have sports betting, right? So like you can tell like it's definitely like a line to toe, right? Like what kind of league are they trying to make? Is it going to be a league where it's like known for fighting, which I think at one point the NHL was like, there was those days where my dad was telling me, like garbage throwing days in like the 80s, where, you know, the game would just be like fight, throw garbage, like just like no skill whatsoever, versus now it's literally the polar opposite. Like you have insane level of skill, right? You're mentioning guys like Matthews, McDavid. That's really never happened in the sport, right? Like, you know, guys used to score like 50 goals just being like a regular dude. You know what I mean? Like, and they never trained. They would go and work on the farm as they're training, right? Now you have this whole regiment, and like, you know, you're dedicated to that, right? Like the game has definitely changed for sure. Like you got to imagine like 50 years ago, you would have been like a Norris Trophy guy. I'm not saying you can't win it now, but I'm saying like rookie, you know what I mean? Like how you are right now. So it's crazy how much the game has evolved, and like where it's even going to go, like even more, right? Like you got to imagine the next generation's even more regimented, right? Yeah. But maybe that's a blessing and a curse. You know, maybe it's too good. It becomes just like this.
Yeah. And then everyone's just like a Crosby. It's like,
Where's like the
because how good could you possibly get? You know, like at some point the skill level's got to like stop, unless they're like some sort of microchip in your head, and then like, you know, AI takes over and doing this fucking crazy things.
Imagine that.
No,
that's definitely like something I thought about. Like you think like hockey stick technology, where it is now to back then, and like skates and the lightness and sticks.
You see, is this thing?
Yeah,
right here.
Like compared to like one of mine, and that like I can't believe like how it's common. If you like the next generation of kids with all this training, like you're talking about, they keep getting better, and the technology, like you never know what the limit is. The bar is like so high, right? And
it's crazy.
Never know.
Yeah, looking back at like old clips of, you know, I'm like telling my dad, like these guys used to wear no helmet. Like they're so like the glass used to literally be the size of their head. Like pucks would, well, obviously pucks didn't really go over as they're using those sticks, but it did happen, right? Deflections, but just crazy. Like how now it's like almost can't even go in the warm up without a helmet.
Could you imagine not wearing a helmet? Like,
no.
Especially goalies,
dude.
Just
Get out of
players.
here with that.
I mean, okay, the puck used to never raise there, but still,
100-mile-an-hour slap shot for the head.
That'd be fucked.
Johnny Bauer is donezo.
You
gotta imagine.
I was scared this year with just a half a visor.
Yeah.
Like, I got a couple pucks to the mouth and teeth and stuff, but that it's scary. Like next year I go back to a cage for college, so that'll be good. But imagine having no helmet, no bucket, like you're done for. Getting a stick it's scary, man. It's scary.
Speaking of injuries, what's like the worst injury you like faced? Have you faced any like bad injuries?
You know what? Knock on wood, but I've been pretty good so far. I had a broken finger once. Like, I'm be honest, that's probably like the biggest. I had a couple pulled ligaments and that kind of stuff, but yeah, I've been good so far. Like been battling some like minor injuries, like some knee injuries, like a back fracture, like stuff like that, but nothing crazy. Thank God, you know, keep it healthy. But yeah, that's also like one thing with the gym, right? Like if you're in the gym every day in the summer, making sure you treat your body right with like, you know, going to a chiropractor, like doing mobility stuff, like typically injuries don't happen. But yeah, that's something I work a lot in the summer, make sure that I'm ready for the season, prepared for the season, and so far so good. Hopefully nothing happens, right? So
like we were saying before, like size is definitely a factor, especially in today's day and age. Like you're saying, like a guy like look at Grexy, like that guy was like skinny, whatever. He had the height, but I'm just saying, like nowadays, like a guy like that, one hit by like fucking Rako Gudas and he's like done, right? So it's like it's definitely it's definitely you know,
Scary man.
yeah.
Are there any guys you're genuinely scared to play against, other than Radko Gudas?
Yeah, it's the big guys. Honestly, like the Russian guys are scary.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Imagine
there's
like a Dustin Buffett.
like
still in the
Ovi
league.
could like fuck someone.
yeah,
up,
he'll
like,
light up your show for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a couple of guys this year. Like we played this one team, Cedar Rapids. They're from Iowa. They're just a really rough team. Like they would just dump the puck in and just try to run you from behind. Like, scary guys. But honestly, like gonna have to just brace yourself for the hits.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's gonna happen. Yeah.
There's one kid on the U.S. program. His name's Brady Cleveland. He's a big guy, like 6'5", 200 something pounds. Went second round. He's pretty good defenseman, but he was a scary man. Like on a really skilled team like that, he stood out because he just like ran people. Like didn't even look at the puck, just try to kill guys.
Yeah.
And obviously it's kind of scary when you're going up the wall, head down. This guy's just trying to run you. But yeah, there's a bunch of guys for sure.
Yeah.
Funny thing is, there's one guy on my team, Jack Sparks. I don't know if you know, familiar with him. He's 6th rounder to Los Angeles. Alex and I know him pretty good. We played against him, and when we played North York, he played on St. Mike's, and we played together this year. But he was 6'8", 230.
Oh my god.
And we played against him, and he just tries to run. Like he hated me the year before. Now we're best buddies. Funny enough, we played on the same team last year, but we hated each other. He just tried to kill me every time. Just a big frame, just coming at you, just trying to maul you. It's,
Like
it's
Chara.
scary, man. Yeah,
Fucking crazy. 6'8" is crazy.
How tall was Chara? Like who was the
I
tallest?
think he was like 6'8".
yeah, he's the same size, I think. Yeah,
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a scary dude.
yeah.
So as a defenseman, you probably hate the dump and chase, eh? Like for forwards, it was awesome, dump it in, chase it down. But
Yeah.
defenseman, it's like you got a guy just hauling right behind you, and you're trying to get that puck in the corner. You're fucking
No, yeah, it's scary. It's the worst part about being a defenseman, 100%.
Yeah.
Like just knowing someone's breathing on your neck, and like you make a wrong move, you're just getting nailed in the corner, right?
Crazy.
Yeah.
shit.
But there's a lot of things you can do to evade it. Like
Yeah.
obviously, if you're scared, you can just chip it up the wall. I love doing that a couple times. You know, chip it, let the forward have it, right? You know. So I'm chilling a little bit, but yeah, I know next year that won't fly. I gotta.
Yeah.
That's why the size helps, right? Like,
For sure, yeah. Gives you that
being
extra
over 2
time,
bills, yeah,
space.
you need that.
Yeah. Were you always just naturally a defenseman, like since you were a kid, or it just kind of came? You like that kind of play style better? Or?
You know what? Funny thing is, when I was younger, I tried out for the Coyotes my first year,
Yeah.
and I got cut because I was a forward. I tried out for forward, and then I went to play double A for the Stars, and the coach was like, "No, you're too big to be a forward. You're a defenseman." So I'm like, "Okay." Then when I grew up, I always had those forward instincts, right? I always wanted to be a forward, score goals. So like gradually over time, like that forward aspect kind of grew into my defensive game, and I became more of an offensive defenseman.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like my role now. I want to be a two-way kind of guy, and I think that's kind of what shaped my, what I am now as a defenseman. So I'm thankful for that. But yeah, I always like defending, stopping plays. But I'm like interested in both sides, not just the defending side. But I think, the game now transitions more of that offensive, game. There's not too many just straight defensive guys. You have no hands as a defenseman, you're done, right? Because you need to make plays
For sure.
and all that. So, yeah.
Well, you got guys like Cale Makar, Adam Fox, like those are sort of the modern defensemen or offensive defensemen, right?
Yeah.
They seem to be dominating the game, right?
Yeah, like you see, like guys like Justin Hall who are that old school style. Like they don't.
He's gonna rip. He's gonna rip.
Yeah, he's getting ripped on this one.
They
dude.
don't
He's
last,
never
right?
coming on the pod. No,
Justin, you're always invited if you want to.
They
But
traded him though, eh?
No,
He's
yeah.
got-
no, he just got like signed, I think, to
Oh, yeah, true.
Detroit, right? Yeah.
isn't he a couple mil too? Still, man.
You know what?
Ripping him, man.
You know what? Watching him, like obviously he made some mistakes, but he was a good first pass guy. Like he
No,
wasn't
yeah,
too bad. He made a couple like.
He's a really good
mistakes.
passer.
Yeah.
Dude, this is bad. Yeah.
I don't know, try to defend him.
You guys are gonna have like a rivalry now for this podcast, like you and Justin Hall.
You know what? I know he gets so much hate, but he's a big guy. Like what is he, 6'5" or something, right?
Yeah, no, he was good. It's the Leafs market. What are you gonna say?
Yeah, he had so much hate. I'm sure he'll do well in Detroit where he is, but one of the biggest things for defensemen is keeping it simple. I think he did a good job of that. I think the pressure got to him though. Like,
Yeah.
playing in Toronto is crazy.
There's
One
always
bad
one
game
guy,
that hates
yeah,
you, right?
for sure.
So like that's one tough thing, but
You a bit more of a Giordano guy or what?
Giordano. Yeah, of course, dude. He's
solid.
talented.
Man. He's awesome.
No, yeah, Gio's crazy. Like, is that someone you look up to? Like, just his longevity, like just playing in the league for how many years? He's the oldest player in the league now, right?
I
Like,
think so,
38 years old. Like, is that something that you envision for yourself to go that long in your career? Or are you just like 25, 30, I'm done?
No, I hope so. That's every guy's dream, right? Like,
Yeah.
a guy like that, he's played so long. He knows the ins and outs, right? And he's such a good defenseman. Like, I was so happy when they brought him to Toronto.
Yeah.
A guy like him, I don't think he didn't get drafted to the NHL, right? Did he even get drafted? Like, this shows you like the
I have no idea.
dedication.
Yeah, Gio.
Just sticking to it, right? He's not even touching 7 rounds, but he made it, and he's one of the best defensemen, hopefully an all-star, right? Like, he's played so many years, and definitely a guy I look up to. Like, when I go watch, like I watch him play. Keeping it simple. Like, he's a great first pass guy.
Right.
He's got a bomb of a shot too, right? And he,
Tough
while
guy,
being that old, right, he can move too. So
Yeah.
he's a great defenseman.
Shout out Gio if you want to come on the pod.
Yeah,
The whole Leafs team.
go
just-
golfing or something. I'd like to go.
that'd be
He's from
cool.
King City, no? I think so.
Yeah, I think he's from around here, right?
Yeah, well, we know his cousins.
Mm.
We went to school with them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Gio.
And there must be something, about just coming back to your hometown, like, end of his career, getting to play in Toronto, like that probably would feel so good. Like just to
Yeah,
have that.
for
Like
sure,
that's
for
why
sure.
I feel like a guy like Max Domi is like perfect, man. I don't know if he's from here, right? Well, he grew up here. Obviously, his dad played here, but
Yeah.
that's why I think he'll be a good fit. It might honestly be like one of his best teams.
It could be.
He's ever played for. And what he was on Phoenix first, or somewhere there, and then he went to Dallas or whatever. But
Yeah,
Montreal.
Montreal,
He was on Dallas, yeah.
Montreal, Dallas.
Yeah, like I expected him to be more of a rougher player too, considering his dad. But I don't obviously don't watch him play a lot, so I don't really know his play style. But obviously, like you were saying, like he's a smaller guy now, so it's harder to be that fucking enforcer guy when you're like 5'9", 5'10", whatever. I don't know how tall he is, but
Yeah.
he's definitely a shorter guy. But yeah, man.
Yeah, I've just wanted to bring up like the cup a little bit, just the Stanley Cup, just to kind of wrap it up a little bit. Because I know in basketball, I keep mentioning basketball, like rings are such an important thing for like the GOAT of basketball.
Yeah.
Right? Like in the NHL, it's much more of like a team sport, Guys are just like they're a part of the general team. Is that something that you envision, like getting like a cup or like a certain amount of cups? Is that like even in your framework of like goals, or like you said, it's just one step in front of the other?
Yeah, definitely one step in front of the other. Obviously, it's there. That's like the main goal. Like everyone, you guys play in the NHL for tens and years and decades, whatever, and they don't ever get a cup, right? Like, that's obviously the main goal. But yeah, just focusing one goal at a time. I have to just make sure I'm playing there first before I get there. But yeah, exactly what you're saying. Like, I don't even think guys even think about the rings. Like, when hockey's such a team sport, team-oriented sport, that like, just achieving it as a group, that's more valuable than anything you're going to get, right? Like, the time you spend with the cup is meaningless to what you have forever with that group, right? You're always going to remember the group. I think the ring is more just like a memory than ever, like just having one, right? Just all the guys you worked for, like starting in August, whatever, all the summer training leading up to, training camp, the development camps, and then the whole grind throughout the season to, finally get that championship, right? It's a dream come true. And a guy like, Patrick Maroon who's done it countless years.
Yeah.
Phil
It's just
Kessel,
awesome.
like-
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And
dude.
what are your thoughts on like Vegas winning the cup this year? Like,
You know what? They deserved it. Like, I know guys say it's rigged. I don't understand really how that works or what they're saying about that. But yeah, they're just such a, like, they just wanted it. They don't have necessarily like a superstar like, Edmonton or Toronto or any other team. They had a good group of guys that are willing to fight. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you have skill, how many draft picks you have, like even in my league, like if you just have the fight and the character, you're going to get there. And you got to have a good group. It's all culture based.
Yeah.
That's how
Right.
teams win. The best culture wins, right?
yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, like you see guys like the Leafs who have all these top guys, right? But comes to the playoffs, what happens, like, right? So, and you got teams like them, like Colorado had like some star players, but they still have like those guys like Kadri who are not the best skill wise, but they have the heart. They want to be out there and play, right?
Yeah.
So you're seeing that a lot now too. Is some of the more successful teams are not just guys with like 2-3 guys that are like superstars, right? They're a whole team who want to work together and really win. So yeah, for sure.
Well, just to kind of wrap it up here, what's one like major piece of advice you'd give to either your younger self or any kid who is on the come up hockey wise, like trying to make the NHL, trying to make a college team, trying to make a AAA team?
Yeah.
What kind of advice would you give to those kids out there?
Yeah, sounds probably cliche, but it's just stick to the process, right? Like, obviously could be bad days, it could be good days as well. But if you're kind of tunnel vision, like I was saying before, making sure you know what your goal is, like that's all you can ask for, right? And it's obviously gonna be tough, it's gonna be sacrifice along the way, but you just gotta stay right, know what your goals are, and just keep achieving each goal. As they're like segments, right?
Yeah.
Every goal you achieve, you're on to the next one.
Yeah.
And eventually they'll get there, right? So
For sure.
Love that, man.
That's it.
It's cool.
Yeah.
One brick at a time, you build that wall, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put it up here.
Yeah, so I
We
guess
appreciate you coming on, man.
we
for
really
sure.
really
Um,
appreciate you coming on.
All the best
Great
success to you in the
perspectives,
future. We'll be here supporting.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hopefully you achieve
And
what
that
you
deal,
want. Yeah.
get
hope
on the
so,
team.
yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Come back after that, maybe.
Yeah, that'd be cool, man.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Guys, go check out George. All his stuff is linked in the description. Appreciate you again for coming on. If you guys want to check out the table right now, go check out the description as well. Shop Unmastered. You guys can go cop some of this beautiful stuff on the table. You can go cop yourself an Unmastered hockey jersey. Stay tuned for some more Unmastered hockey episodes. We started that whole segment, so it's been doing well. It's fun. But yeah, we're going to keep on bringing on great guests like George in the future, possibly some more hockey guys. We're in some talks with some more guys. So appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks. Appreciate
Cheers,
it.
bro.
Hands a little sweaty, but
Yeah, just a little. All right, guys, take care.
See ya.